It's early spring, and the sun is in my eyes. But no matter. I'm on an important mission. To Marathon Gas Station, Jackson, Georgia. Marathon has advertised there are 28 toilets on their billboards for several miles now. And I've got to go. Legend has it that one of them is supposed to be a golden toilet. But I've never seen it. I hear that if you use all 28 toilets, they'll give you a prize. But that will require a card that you would have to get stamped for each specific toilet. And the restrooms, they're gender specific. Good luck. Must have been my imagination. Outside, there is a statue of a fancy pants bulldog smoking a cigar. It's protected by a red plastic chain. And the pants, they have the letter P all over it. A bit of a mystery. And just getting to the restrooms is another matter. Once you're inside, try not to buy any country-spun, jerked and pickled mud-flap trucker gear. Tourist goods, home decor, and children's toys. And souvenir t-shirts for days. Clean restrooms and nice people though. And a shower if you need one. But taking a whiz in a clean restroom, that's not the mission. I'm driving south. Past old Sparky and Death Row. And past the Trucker's Chapel. The illuminated cross, also a method of execution, glows red at night. Lots of praying at both places, I wager. As to the mission, I'm driving south to drink something I've never drunk before. Yaupon, the original, indigenous to America, caffeinated beverage of choice, before the importation of tea and coffee. And I can think of no better place to try Yaupon for the first time than Ocmulgee National Historical Park. The museum is nice. It performs the duty of an interpretation center responsibly. It is good to see this museum as effective as it is in the wake of the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act of 1990. In the 1930s, Ocmulgee Mounds was the site of the largest archaeological dig in American history. Millions of objects, including human remains, were unearthed and divvied up between museums, universities, and the federal government. The park once promoted itself with postcards featuring an exposed human skeleton. And the skull didn't match the bones. Two different people were cobbled together, irrespective of their identity. For the record, when I die, I request that my body be cremated to save me from this kind of embarrassment and disrespect. Do you really think all of those people in the body's exhibit were willing participants? My God, what a nightmare. to have your body on display in a museum. Roller skating. And what about Mao Zedong's embalmed body? He requested that his body be cremated. But like a Rodney Dangerfield routine, even a chairman's body gets no respect. His embalmed remains are in a museum as well. It's a popular attraction. About 10 million people visit it in a year. 50,000, the record for one day. But the cultural zeitgeist regarding artifacts and human remains appears to be changing. In America, at least. In the summer of 2017, a private ceremony was held at Ocmulgee Mounds. The remains of 114 people, along with 42,000 funeral objects, were reburied in an undisclosed location in the park. It would be easy to forgive the museum for having bare walls, but they have a nice exhibit. Kudos to Ocmulgee Mounds National Historical Park for doing the right thing and still being able to do it well. But we're not here for the museum. We're here for Yaupon, and that doesn't grow well indoors. Thankfully, we don't have to go very far, because there is a copse of Yaupon holly trees growing right outside of the front doors. It seems a rather unassuming plant at first. Less of a tree, more of a shrub. Pretty red berries, spindly branches. But there is a whole lot more to this prickly plant. Let's take a deep dive into Yaupon before finding a place to have our drink. Yaupon is a borrowed word from the Catawba language. The Catawba being a people native to the Piedmont region of South Carolina, along the Catawba River. The word Yaupon simply means little tree. The multi-trunked evergreen is endemic to the coastal regions of the American South, growing along the outer banks of North Carolina down to Florida, and then west into Texas, along the Gulf of Mexico. Yaupon leaves were a valuable pre-Columbian commodity, traded widely. Evidence of Yaupon tea, also called black drink, has been found in shell cups as far inland as Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis, far from Yaupon holly's native range. It has even been found south in the Mexican state of Chiapas, near Palenque, in the heart of Mayan country. It is likely that Yaupon was traded for cacao, as they could be mixed in a ceremonial version of the black drink. To prepare Yaupon, you would roast the leaves, just as you would coffee beans. Then the leaves would be steeped or simmered in hot water. It is a good pick-me-up drink, and it doesn't leave you jittery like coffee can. Yaupon black drink could be drunk recreationally. Ossabaw Island, off the coast of Georgia, gets its name from the corrupted Muskogee Creek word for land of the holly, or holly growing place. This is in reference to the abundance of Yaupon holly that grows on the island. Young, single adult men and women of the Gwali tribe would visit the island to drink Yaupon, party and play, prefiguring the shenanigans of our current spring break traditions. Across the distance of time and place, turns out we're not all that different. Black drink was prepared for ceremonial and medicinal purposes as well. The details are lost, but in one version of the drink, a root with psychoactive emetic properties was added. A seminal version of the black drink used a hallucinogen to evoke ecstasies. The bark was also used in the black drink to treat nightmares where the patient sees ghosts and talks in their sleep. Often, though, these souped-up versions of the black drink were used in purification or purging ceremonies, as a side effect would be vomiting. And there were other versions of the black drink as well. And why not a souped-up super soldier? A hyper-caffeinated, Yaupon-powered super soldier. The Nazis did it with methamphetamine. The Soviet Union tried it by attempting a human-ape hybrid. And the Chinese might be trying it now, with CRISPR genetic engineering, using tardigrade DNA to make humans immune to radioactive fallout. Yaupon Super Soldiers. A super caffeinated version of the drink would be prepared for warriors before going into battle. Caffeine promotes a more rapid, clearer flow of thought, sharpens the reaction time. It increases our capacity for work and prevents fatigue. Studies suggest that large doses of caffeine speeds up blood clotting, in case you get a nasty war wound. Who wouldn't want the extra pick-me-up before bashing in the skull of your enemy with a club? And soon, there would be enemies aplenty. Strangers from across the sea. The Spanish, English, and French all noted American natives imbibing the black drink, and soon, many early colonists found themselves with a caffeine addiction as well, drinking it daily, both morning and night. In Spanish St. Augustine, Yaupon was consumed to such an extent that botanist Francisco Jimenez noted in his 1615 book, New World of Medicinal Plants, that any day that a Spaniard does not drink it, he feels he is going to die. The first Spanish colonist in Florida, who Jimenez says drank the drink every day in the morning and night, called the beverage Té del Indio, or Casina. The English in South Carolina also called it Casina, only with an anglicized spelling. The word Casina is thought to have derived from the long-extinct Timucuan native language, extinction by supercaffeinated Anglo-Hispano aggression. Timucuan culture once dominated southern Georgia and northern Florida, but the last of the Timucuans disappeared sometime in the 18th century. Yaupon was catching on, exported to Europe under different names. England knew it as Carolina tea and South Sea tea. Spain referred to it as Chocolate del Indio because of its sweet taste. France called it Appalachina, referring to the Appalachian people of the Florida Panhandle. It even gained the moniker Liberty Tea during the days of the Boston Tea Party. But such a wide range of confusing names only emphasizes the need for a taxonomy, a universal language of classification for all animals and plants. The Linnaean classification system was in its infancy when Europeans first encountered Yaupon. You might remember your biology: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Using this system, all of God's creation would be classified and given a Latin name. Enter William Yaupon, British botanist and official gardener to His Majesty King George III, a man described as being highly estimable for mildness, benevolence, piety, and every domestic and social virtue. Yaupon is credited with giving the Yaupon holly tree its scientific name, Ilex vomitoria. Let that sink in a bit. Ilex, for the genus more commonly known as holly, and vomitoria, Latin for makes you vomit. The reasons why Yaupon gave the Yaupon holly its terrible name is not exactly clear. It may have been confused, given bad information. Yaupon itself does not make you vomit. It is either the addition of an emetic ingredient or the ceremonial consumption of large quantities of Yaupon while fasting that causes one to vomit. There could also be a less scrupulous motive attached to the legend, an economic motive. Yaupon was catching on in the colonies, and it was being exported back to Europe. The British had a monopoly on Chinese tea via the East India Company, and Yaupon was now an economic threat. Perhaps Ilex vomitoria was a politically motivated smear campaign to squash the threat to the British tea trade. Whatever the motive, Yaupon eventually falls out of favor. By the mid-19th century, the Native Americans who drank the black drink were either extinct or pushed west into Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. Cultural pressures had an effect as well. Yaupon had become the drink of choice for the poor white trash who couldn't afford imported British tea. During the Civil War, when imported coffee and tea were difficult to come by in the South, soldiers would drink coffee substitutes made from chicory and dandelion root, or, reluctantly, would drink Yaupon. After the war, Yaupon was forgotten, all but unknown to the populace at large. Until now. A company from Florida has made Yaupon available again. And it just so happens I have some today.
I figured this is as good a place as any for us to try our Yaupon tea. Over by the funeral mound, back end of the park. A little less chances for us to be disturbed. It's a balmy early spring out, mid-February here in Georgia. We had an early spring predicted by our local groundhog, General Beauregard Lee. He lives in a house better than most of us do. Plantation-style house. Go figure. Only in the South. I think our tea has steeped long enough. Let's give it a shot. Not sure what to think quite yet. Kinda tastes like grass. Yeah, it sort of tastes like lawnmower clippings. I was not expecting that. It's not disgusting, mind you. Just not what I expected. And yeah, maybe, frankly, not that delicious. I do see how this can be a bit of a pick-me-up, though. Good amount of caffeine. You know, I really like this place. But it's a damn shame, really. The railroad going through the middle of all this. Sounds an expressway. Sounds of downtown Macon on the horizon. Airplanes flying overhead. Anyway, let's finish our tea.
Across from the mounds, on the other side of the river, is the city of Macon. Macon was founded in 1823, an ambitious, fast-growing town, eager to get in on the Industrial Revolution bandwagon. This was cotton country. The cotton needed to get to the nearest port and shipped to destinations around the world. In 1843, the Central Railroad and Canal Company was commissioned to construct a rail line connecting the city to Savannah. The rail line would cut right through the heart of the mounds. The track destroyed 3/4 of the Lesser Temple Mound. Not being content with this destruction, 30 years later, the Central Railroad and Canal Company adjusted the track to take a direct path through the funeral mound. Over 100 burials were discovered inside the mound. The original path of the first railroad track is marked out by the park's main road and parking area. And the second railroad track, which sliced off the northern half of the funeral mound, is still in use today. In a bid to become a national park, Ocmulgee Mounds has pushed its Native American history, and rightfully so. The two Civil War battles that happened here were not much more than minor skirmishes, trivial when weighed against the multi-millennia human presence that came before it. Detractors will point to the Confederate trenches that still survive in the park as not much more than hillbillies in a hole. But I don't think this history can be dismissed so easily. The stories are still worth telling. It was 1864, late in the war. The Battle of Atlanta had just taken place, though the city had not yet fallen. General William Tecumseh Sherman sent the ambitious cavalry commander, General Stoneman, south to wreck the Macon Railroad that was supplying the Confederate troops in Atlanta. Stoneman failed. Not willing to go back to Atlanta without some success, he changed plans and decided to take Macon and rescue the Federal prisoners of war at Andersonville. Stoneman arrived on July 30th, setting up camp at the Dunlap Plantation. He began laying siege, firing a cannon into the city across the river. It was a farce from the beginning. Only one cannonball managed to have effect, bouncing into the home of Judge Asa Holt. It's called the Cannonball House today, open to the public as a museum. The Confederate presence in the city that day was strong. Stoneman quickly found himself on the defensive and retreated northward. The raid failed. He and 700 of his men were captured, sent to the very same prisons that he had sought to liberate. Stoneman's raid and the subsequent fall of Atlanta had encouraged Macon to set up a defensive system of trenches and earthworks outside the city. Sherman had begun his march to the sea, and Macon was directly in the path of the advancing army. 62,000 soldiers in 2 advancing columns. Sherman sent a cavalry force commanded by General Judson Kilpatrick to test Macon's defenses. Arriving on November 20th, Kilpatrick managed to take the Dunlap Plantation, which was protected by 2 cannon, trenches, and an earthwork fort. Macon, however, was home to the Army of Tennessee's reserve artillery, and the Confederates pounded Kilpatrick's troops in response. Kilpatrick then attacked a railroad trestle over Walnut Creek, but the advance was blunted. Macon was lucky. Kilpatrick's raid was only a diversion, meant to tie down Confederate troops as Sherman's army converged on their real target, neighboring Milledgeville. Kilpatrick's cavalry retreated from the field, a tactical defeat, but having performed a diversion for Sherman's main force, assisted in the strategic victory. Looking at the Confederate defenses at the Dunlap plantation, you might ask yourself, did any of the soldiers, the hillbillies in a hole, drink Yaupon? Perhaps some of the Muskogee Creek soldiers, if there were any. During the American Civil War, most of the Muskogee Creek tribes, primarily those of the Lower Creek, fought for the Confederacy, most notably in Arkansas, where Yaupon grows in a small region in the southwest corner of the state. With rightful resentment, many of the Native Americans that were forcibly relocated to Indian Territory in Oklahoma chose to side with the Confederacy. Some even owned African slaves on plantations. A minority, however, like Upper Muskogee Miko, Pothole Yoholo, argued neutrality in the white man's war. Pothole Yoholo led thousands of followers from multiple tribes, along with escaped slaves and freedmen, to exile in Union-controlled Kansas. Along the way, they endured repeated attacks from Confederate forces, including Stan Watty's Cherokee-mounted rifles. Stan Watty, who replaced John Ross as principal chief of the Cherokee, was famously the last Confederate general to surrender in the Civil War. Because a majority of the Muskogee Creek allied themselves with the Confederacy, a new treaty was required with the United States. The Treaty of 1866 abolished slavery. It also required the sale of the western half of the reservation to the United States, with the proceeds being marked for war reparations to loyal Muskogee Creek refugees, freedmen, and soldiers who had enlisted in the Federal Army. The more you read into history, the more it becomes clear that things are messy and complicated. Let the youth keep their passions. It has its place. But the more I move forward in this life, the more I recognize and appreciate nuance. It's the only way to make peace with our human hypocrisy. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. So where does this leave us? In 2019, Ocmulgee Mounds National Monument doubled its size, and the park was upgraded to a National Historical Park. The Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve Initiative has continued to work to further upgrade the park to achieve full national park status. The Ocmulgee Mounds National Park and Preserve, Georgia's first. It has been a long time coming. Franklin Roosevelt tried to make Ocmulgee Mounds a national park in the 1930s. He became aware of the mounds after he began his regular visits to nearby warm springs, where he sought relief from his polio in its therapeutic waters. The Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve's original proposal was ambitious. The park would grow from its current size of 3,336 acres to more than 120,000 acres, creating a 41-mile corridor along the Ocmulgee River between Macon and Hawkinsville, the land of glow-in-the-dark worms. The sandy soil of southern Georgia is home to Diplocardia longa, or gruntworm, a bioluminescent earthworm native to North America that glows blue. The worms that we are more familiar with, the common earthworm or nightcrawler, are considered an invasive species from Europe, accidentally brought over as a part of ship's ballast some 400 years ago. The conservation status of gruntworms, however, is unknown. If an Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve does happen, the gruntworm would join 170 species of birds, 31 species of fish, 35 species of reptiles, 26 amphibian, and 32 species of mammal, including an isolated population of American black bear. The biological and environmental importance cannot be overestimated. The park would preserve and protect significant strands of bottomland forest, wildlife dispersal corridors, and endangered chalk prairies. The biological and environmental importance of the area are not the only item of interest to the National Park Service when considering the potential for a new park. The cultural and historical importance is considered as well. Ocmulgee has this covered. Artifacts dating back to the earliest known human inhabitants in the southeast, the Mounds, once the capital of a bustling and vibrant civilization, and the cradle of the Muskogee Creek Confederacy. The land is still a sacred place for the Muskogee. This is where they settled after a long migration from western Mexico. Being a confederacy of tribes, there are many origin myths for the Muskogee Creek, but according to one oral history, Muskogee came from a place with earthquakes, where the earth would occasionally open and swallow their children. They decided to leave this place to find where the sun rose. On their journey, they passed through the desert and a mountain that thundered with red smoke. There was fire at the summit. They passed the Rocky Mountains, the backbone of the earth. Eventually they found themselves along the bank of the Ocmulgee, the place where they first sat down. Should an Ocmulgee National Park happen, the Muskogee would be included in a co-management program, allowing them to return to their ancestral homes and have a say in how the park is governed. It is a rare arrangement that only 4 other national park units have. Military history has a presence here as well. DeSoto's exploration, Queen Anne's War, the Yamasee War, the Civil War, and World War I and World War II POW camps. This was the border of the United States up until the 1830s, the American frontier. Blackshear's Line, a string of forts along the Ocmulgee River, passes through here as well. Ocmulgee's biological, cultural, and historical significance isn't in question, nor is it suitability. A national park and preserve in Georgia would have a positive economic impact for the area. But there are 4 criteria that must be met for a new national park to be established. 1. National significance. 2. Suitability. 3. Feasibility. And 4. Need for direct management by National Park Services. And the National Park Service currently says Ocmulgee only meets the first 2. In their estimation, an Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve is just not feasible, nor do any of the resources that would be gathered into a new national park need direct management by the National Park Service. The original plan would require the appropriation of several public and private lands, including the Bond Swamp National Wildlife Refuge and 3 state of Georgia wildlife management areas. And they aren't exactly thrilled about the prospect of surrendering control. In their eyes, the resources under their management are best protected under the current status quo. Even if these challenges could be overcome, the budget to acquire the necessary private lands appears insurmountable. There would also be challenges to managing the park. The National Park Service notes that areas around the proposed park face too many developmental pressures, from resource extraction, timber, mining, urban and agricultural expansion, the introduction of invasive species, acoustic impacts and developmental pressures from Warner Robins Air Force Base, pollution, trash dumping, and looting of archaeological sites. There is too much activity outside the proposed park that would make it difficult to protect the resources inside of the proposed park. Politics, however, is the final arbiter in whether the park can be created. And if the park does become fact, it would not be the first time Congress would defy the National Park Service's recommendations. Gateway National Park's creation was purely political in a most cynical way. In 2018, it was upgraded from a national memorial. The National Park Service testified that it was too small and limited in the range of resources the site protects and interprets to be called a national park. But Congress passed the bill anyways, and the grass field and monument commemorating Manifest Destiny inexplicably became upgraded to national park status. While a more deserving park, proposed to protect areas in need of conservation, would be given a wet blanket reception due to budgetary concerns. So far, the proposal to create an Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve has failed to pass through Congress twice. But let's not be cynical. Not if we don't have to be, because politics, if not cynical, is at least fickle, and who knows what the future may bring. If we're lucky, it might be an Ocmulgee National Park. Currently, a less ambitious and much reduced plan is heading back to Congress. Called the Better Than Nothing Bill, the new park would be capped at 6,000 acres. Let's just say it would be a good start.
Well, that does it for our time at Ocmulgee National Historical Park. Good Lord, that Yaupon tea might taste like grass, but it has got one hell of a kick. It's helped me out a lot on this hike. It did not take long for the temperature to warm up. Actually, really nice out. Until next time.
We hope you've enjoyed this video presentation. If you have, we can use your support. Share this video, like, subscribe, enable your notifications, all the normal stuff. Together, we can beat that devil, the algorithm.
Say again, the person you picked up bookshelves does what?
Vancouver, BC, 1026. Seattle, 1028. Boise, 1030. And Halloween night in Salt Lake City. From Joshua Tree from our home station. KCDZ 107.7 FM. And on your home station if you're listening elsewhere tonight.